Hey guys, Forsaken Reality here. In this one I'll be showing you guys how to set up chaos destruction and setting up destructible meshes, a projectile that can destroy them, and several methods of creating some different objects like you can see here. So I'll just shoot the different objects and break them up. Some overhanging objects that can fall down and break up. And these objects that'll have like centerpieces that can't be destroyed. So without further ado, we will get into setting this up. So the first thing you want to do is create a first-person project, or you could use any projectile would really work for this. So I'm just going to move this out of the way. I have my a blank first-person project set up here. So the first thing we're going to want to look into is actually creating some destructible meshes. So I'm going to just remove a couple things out of the map here. And I'm just going to select an object and then go to fracture mode. And with the object I've selected, I'll do a smaller cube first. And new. I'm just going to create a new folder in my content for chaos. And create geometry collection. And you'll notice you'll have this new file here created, and it will start outlining it with this grid. So the first thing we're going to do is create some cuts on the mesh. So you want to click uniform. You also have some other options here like cluster, which will pick different points along the mesh to break it up more. And you can do a custom break, but I'll just stick to a uniform for now. I'll fracture this and select the first one, and I'll give it another fracture and another one, and then I'll make sure I select the first one for this. I'll come down to auto, and you can adjust the cluster sites here. Same thing for here, depending on the value of these will determine how many cluster sites, but you want to probably keep these low because it could affect the performance pretty badly. So I'm just going to auto cluster after selecting the first one, 0 there, and that'll cluster them up. You can then come into the select the mesh, come into the details panel, and scroll down here in the chaos physics general and show bones, which will allow you to actually see the color. You'll notice that when you play now that the object will just sit there, but if you drop it, it'll smash up into its little pieces. But you notice we can't affect it yet. And there's actually some pieces that haven't fully broken up into all the way there. So we're going to work on creating the projectile for this. So we're just going to go into first person blueprints and open up our projectile here. And the way we're going to do this is I'm going to first disconnect this and just move it up for a moment out of my way. Drag out of here, right click, spawn actor from class. And I'm actually going to grab some of my fields and put them in the chaos folder, organize just so I can get to them easier. So I want to click engine. If you don't have that available, you click settings and show engine content. Make sure this is ticked. And then in here, I'm going to search for field. And I'm going to scroll down until I find the anchor field. I'm going to hold Alt and click this. Oops. Hold Alt and click the sleep field and the master field. And I'm just going to drag into my chaos folder. And I'm going to copy those, not move them, because it'll break some things. You want to make sure you copy them into there. So now you'll have a copy of all 3 of those fields. First thing I'm going to do is set up the projectile field. So From here we can search for field and get the master field. And I'm just going to split this. I'm going to set the scaling to like 0.7. Just to organize that a little better because it's going to be doing this on both of these. And now we're going to want to get our hit result, which we can get from right here. Break hit result. And from this, we're going to want to get our location. And we're going to want to drag out and search for vector to transform, and then make sure it's the vector. Right click on this and split it. And we can take the rotation value directly from here and plug it in. And the location, we will need our impact normal. I'm actually going to change this to impact point. And we'll get our impact normal times -5. And then we'll get our location here and add that on to our impact normal. Or add our impact normal onto our location. And that will be the spawn location. Compile and save. And we want to drag out of here and get a few. I'm going to promote this to a variable. Make that a chaos impact field reference so that we can drag out and get this now. We're going to want to get activation type and set that to trigger. And we will also, just going to copy this variable so I can keep Control C and Control V so I can paste it again. And I'm going to get the field lifespan, or set the field lifespan, sorry. Set field lifespan 2.1. And Control V for another one of these. And get the radial magnitude. Set that to about 150. And also search for trigger and get the event for CE trigger. And we'll want to run that after all of that runs. We can actually come back here and probably drop the impact normal to 0.3. I'll spawn the chaos impact field and set the settings for it. And now we have that spawned. We can click play. And shoot a projectile. Just knocking things around, but you'll notice that the object doesn't stay in place. So to easily get the object to stay in place, we will use an anchor field. And they're pretty simple to use. You just drag it out, put it on the object to make sure you're in select mode. And don't think that anchor field actually got placed out there, so you need to be in select mode. Put that more down into the floor there like that. Then you want to select your object again and scroll down to initialization fields and add one to that. And you want to add your anchor fields. You can just click this on the initialization index for what you want and click that, and it will add it for you. Now when we click play, you shoot that object, you notice that it stays in place, and there's several little children there that will break down into pieces more as you shoot them. So that's one object right there set up. And now we know how to use our sleep fields, or our anchor fields, sorry. And the projectile is set up. Now we will quickly looking into setting up a wall and an overhanging object. So I'm just going to grab this cube, set the rotation on it, and I'm going to set the height to 3. Five and 5. I'm actually going to set this to 2 maybe because it seems a little big there. And I'm actually going to use a regular shape just so we're not using, just so we did not use that shape there. I'm going to use just a cube. It's not rounded corners. And 2. Five. I'll make that a little thinner. So that was my wall. And I'm going to select fracture and new. Make sure I select my chaos folder, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to make the default name. And we'll get a new cube. And you can also place these out into the world anytime you want. Set your own fields on them. They can use the same field, like this for example. I can grab that and can attach it to that field, so now they're both attached to this one, this anchor. Just a quick show there. Get back into this one. I'm going to first uniform cut it. Seems a bit odd. No, never mind, that's perfect. It's just the amount of fractures it's getting. It's gonna fracture. I'm gonna select the first one, fracture it again, select it again. I'm gonna fracture it a few times here. And then I'm gonna finally go in and auto. And auto cluster 10 sites is good. So that'll create this. You can make it more or less fractured to your own liking. So now we'll be able to come in, shoot this, and it'll fall apart. So now to make an overhang, first thing, quickly just going to reconnect my destroy projectile here at the end, so that doesn't stay alive, and everything should just work fine still. Destroy this projectile now. Notice that they're chunking off into, you can actually see the pieces that are connected to the smaller pieces. And I'm just going to turn off my show bone color and go into search this color and just set it for my wall here. And this right here is the interior color. So I'll show you about that stuff later. So we're going to I'm just going to bring this over here. Go into my chaos. And bring this into the world. Let's quickly set this up over here so it's basically creating an overhang. So basically you want to snap together perfectly. Let's do that. And now we can grab some anchor fields. Probably want an anchor field. Just gonna move these closer so it's actually like in the wall kind of. Probably gonna want an anchor field kind of right here like this. Anchoring it to the wall. And you can actually adjust the size of that so now all the parts that are in this will now be anchored to the wall all along the side, every part that's touching it and inside of it basically. You can select this wall, get our initialization field and add our anchor. You can select this same anchor and hold Alt and drag it out. Connect it to these pieces. And we will anchor this here like that. Actually going to change that up a bit. So there's several anchor points. So we have this spot that can, once all the pieces are broken around this piece, it can be broken off. We already have this anchor point set there. And I'm going to hold Alt, drag over, and anchor it to that side as well. Plus to add a second initialization field, set that anchor. Everything should hold in place. Depending on your fractures, it will fracture differently. So that's right there, an overhanging ones that will fall down. You can also mess with if it's not breaking the way you want it to as it falls down. You can always adjust these damage thresholds. I like to usually turn them down like that, take a 0 out of each of them. It didn't seem to look too great right there though. Yeah, it's always something you can mess around with depending on how you set up your projectile and everything like that. And I lost those. Clustering. Damage fields. Set those. So yeah, that's an overhanging. And we can always come into, say you want to cluster up your object some more. But I feel like mine doesn't have enough. Make sure you select your cube. Maybe there's an area on it that you want to cluster up more. You can select certain areas specifically. You can select different groupings. Depending on how you have your object grouped up, you can manually group up different areas. Just depends on how long you want to spend on that. And I'm just going to add a custom fracture. Definitely don't want to do that one. That one looks crazy. But uniform. you notice right here in the center, there's a lot more cracks. I'm just going to actually add that along. Yeah, let's keep that in the center. If you have like a brick wall, like a barricade, you can actually like create little effects where the top of the barricade will be broken more by setting this along. You'll notice there's a lot more cracks up here, and then you can have your normal cracks. So like bullets will come and hit this and chip off the tops, and smaller pieces will break down basically. Just fracture that like that, and hope that's not too many. Should be fine. For testing purposes, it seems like it actually might be a lot. You might not want to have that many. You can see if the wall is fracturing a little better there. You can actually enable nanite and different things on them. You want to open up here and where is it? Yeah, strip on cook and enable nanite. You can enable both of those. That will offer you some better performance. And now I'm just going to quickly show you how to set up an object where you can't destroy the full one. So you say you have a centerpiece that you want to not be destroyed in the object. So you just grab this, hold Alt, just drag up a second one like that. I'm going to get a anchor field, since the anchor field, any collision field that's blocking projectiles basically will allow you to create this effect. So 5, we'll make it really thin, maybe 0.4. It's gonna make it really long. It's much longer than it needs to be, but just to show what I'm doing here. And yeah, I want to just hold control to select them both, because you can actually initialize the fields for both of them at the same time. They're both going to use the same field here. Now we can come up, shoot it. You'll notice that it's kind of like creating the shape of the collision field in the center there. Depending on the collisions and ideas you can set up. I know there's some tools in the marketplace for creating custom collision shapes and stuff. You can probably create some cool effects with that. Yeah, if they were crushed up differently, then they would probably break up differently. One more quick thing I was going to look through is setting up the interior materials and exteriors. So if you select here, you'll notice you'll have 3 elements on the destructible mesh. You can actually just come in here, and I'm just going to duplicate this blue and make it green, because it's already a material instance, so we don't need to make an instance of an instance. Set that to green. Now we can just drag this over onto element 1. And that will add greens to the center of them elements. So when you break them off, this will be good for like creating the broken up textures for the broken rocks on the inside of a rock or something like that. You have the textures for those. Different things like that. If I didn't set them, then it wouldn't recolor them. So that's basically how that coloring works. So you can have the textures of a brick wall and then a crumbled rock brick wall from the inside, so it wouldn't look the same basically. Give it some difference to the broken areas. And I noticed that this wall was exploding all at once. That's because it's not anchored. Just gonna quickly anchor that down here. 2 spots. So if I were to break off, I'll just show you with this one. Anchor that there. And go to select mode again, I guess. Play. And our anchor is right there. You can't see it, but if I were to break everything off with that anchor, the wall should start moving. See? That's where you gotta like kind of plan how your anchors are. There's a few simple ways to do it. You want several little breakpoints, and you can create several anchors to connect. But I'm just normally for like houses or anything like that, you could just, or big walls or statues, you could always just anchor it like that, and it'll anchor it across the whole bottom of the mesh. And that's just different break values that you can set up. Allows you to break up in little pieces. And you can always mess around with a few of the settings yourself on these and in your projectile. -5 is usually what I like. It's usually what I would use by default. You can mess around with how big this radius magnitude is. And you can always adjust the damage thresholds. And different things will just give you different looks to your objects breaking up. That's clearly, we're killing that. Yeah, you can see that as I'm adjusting things, they're changing, becoming more and less breakable, I guess. You can see that one object broke off, and then it broke off into its separate little pieces as they hit the ground and explode. So that's going to be everything for this episode. If you found this video helpful and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new tutorial video uploads. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section below or join my Discord server using the link in the description. Thanks, and I'll see you all in the next one.